"Dad, why does that lady's hands shake like Grandpa's did before he got his medicine?" The innocent question from 6-year-old Emma hung in the hospital elevator. Her brothers, Ethan and Eli, nodded in agreement. They'd all noticed the elegant woman in the business suit whose hands trembled as she checked her phone. Alexandra Reeves, CEO of Horizon Pharmaceuticals, looked up from her device, startled by the child's observation. For 2 years, she'd consulted with 31 specialists across the country. None had connected the dots. If this story touches your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of hope and human connection. Alexandra had always been unstoppable. At 42, she'd built a pharmaceutical empire from nothing, revolutionizing treatment protocols for rare diseases. The irony wasn't lost on her that she now faced her own medical mystery. It started with occasional tremors. She dismissed them as stress or too much caffeine. Then came the unexplained weight loss, the night sweats, the racing heart. Each symptom seemed unrelated to the last. Blood tests, MRIs, specialist after specialist, all inconclusive. "We're not seeing anything definitive," became the refrain she dreaded. Meanwhile, her company was on the verge of its biggest breakthrough, a treatment for childhood leukemia that showed unprecedented promise. Alexandra couldn't afford to be sick, not now. She hid her symptoms from her board, from her employees, from the world. Only her assistant knew the truth, that some days, she could barely hold a pen. Daniel Foster hadn't planned on raising triplets alone. When his wife died during childbirth 3 years ago, the pediatric nurse had been thrust into single parenthood with 3 newborns. Now, at 35, his life revolved around school drop-offs, matching outfits, and bedtime stories. Today was supposed to be routine, just a follow-up appointment for Eli's asthma. But the hospital elevator had changed everything. "I'm sorry about my daughter's comment," Daniel said, flushing with embarrassment after the elevator doors closed behind the businesswoman. "Kids and their observations." "No, wait," Alexandra called, holding the elevator door. What did she mean about her grandfather? Emma looked up with wide eyes. "Grandpa's hands used to shake before he got his special pills. He had the thing that makes you smell metal sometimes." Daniel's medical training kicked in. "She means Wilson's disease. My father-in-law was diagnosed late in life. The kids remember his copper accumulation symptoms before treatment." Alexandra felt a chill run through her body. Metallic taste. She'd mentioned it to several doctors, but it had been dismissed as anxiety or acid reflux. "Do you work in medicine?" she asked Daniel. "Pediatric nurse at Boston Children's," he replied. "Specialized in rare disorders before switching to general care after my wife passed." 2 weeks later, Alexandra sat in yet another doctor's office, this time with test results that confirmed what Emma's innocent observation had triggered: Wilson's disease, a rare genetic disorder where copper accumulates in the body. Treatable, if caught in time. "It's uncommon to develop symptoms in your 40s, the specialist explained. That's why it was missed. But the treatment protocol is straightforward." Alexandra felt tears forming. "A 6-year-old diagnosed me when 31 specialists couldn't." The story might have ended there, a fortunate medical diagnosis from an unlikely source. But Alexandra couldn't stop thinking about Daniel and his triplets. She'd gotten his contact information before leaving the hospital that day, promising to let him know if his daughter's observation helped. She called him with the news, voice breaking with gratitude. "Your daughter saved my life." "Emma will be thrilled," Daniel said. "She wants to be a doctor someday. I'd like to thank them in person. Maybe ice cream?" What began as a thank you ice cream outing became dinner the following week. Alexandra was enchanted by the triplets' energy and Daniel's quiet strength. He, in turn, was drawn to her determination and the way she listened intently to his children's rambling stories. 6 months later, Alexandra stood before her company's board, hands steady as she presented their latest initiative, the Foster Foundation for Pediatric Diagnostic Training, named after the family that had changed her life. Sometimes the most important observations come from unexpected sources, she told the board. We're creating a program that trains medical professionals to listen to patients, all patients, even the youngest ones, with new ears. The foundation would fund specialized training for pediatric nurses and doctors, focusing on rare disease recognition and the importance of patient narratives in diagnosis. Daniel sat in the back of the boardroom, watching with pride. Their relationship had deepened over months of shared meals, playground visits, and late-night conversations after the triplets were asleep. 1 year after that fateful elevator ride, Alexandra found herself in Daniel's living room, helping Emma with a science project while the boys built elaborate Lego structures nearby. You know, Daniel said quietly, watching her explain cell structure to his daughter, before you, I thought our family was complete. Just the four of us against the world. Alexandra looked up, her heart full. And now? Now I think maybe there's room for one more. Emma looked between them with the same perceptive eyes that had once noticed trembling hands. Are you going to be our mom now? She asked Alexandra directly. The question hung in the air, simpler yet more complex than any medical diagnosis. 2 years after Emma's innocent question in the elevator, Alexandra stood in the garden of Daniel's, now their home, surrounded by friends, family, and 3 excited 7-year-olds in matching outfits. Sometimes the most important questions come from the most unexpected sources, she said in her vows, looking at the triplets who were now officially becoming her children too. Emma asked why my hands shook, and that question saved my life. Then she asked if I would be her mother, and that question gave me a life I never dreamed possible. Daniel squeezed her steady hands. From 31 doctors to one question from a child. Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. Alexandra continued leading her pharmaceutical company, but with new priorities and perspectives. The Foster Foundation expanded, creating diagnostic protocols that incorporated observations from family members, especially children. The triplets grew, thriving with 2 parents who taught them the value of both scientific knowledge and simple human observation. Emma never wavered from her dream of becoming a doctor. Eli discovered a talent for engineering, designing assistive devices for people with tremors. Ethan became the family writer, documenting their unusual story. On the 5th anniversary of that elevator ride, Alexandra received a letter from a mother in Arizona whose daughter had been diagnosed with Wilson's disease after her pediatrician, trained through the Foster Foundation program, recognized the symptoms that might otherwise have been missed. Your story saved my daughter, the letter read. Thank you for turning your struggle into hope for others. Alexandra read the letter aloud to her family that evening, her voice catching with emotion. See? Emma said, now 11 and wise beyond her years. Sometimes the best medicine is just asking the right question. Daniel wrapped his arm around his wife, watching their children with pride. And sometimes the answer to one question leads to answers we weren't even looking for. Alexandra nodded, thinking of the journey from successful but solitary CEO to part of this vibrant, loving family. From 31 doctors with no answers to one child's question that had changed everything. The questions we ask shape the lives we lead, she told the triplets. Never stop being curious. Never stop observing. You never know whose life you might save, or change forever. As the family gathered for dinner, Alexandra looked around at the faces she'd come to love so deeply. Her hands, steady now with treatment, reached for Daniel's across the table. Some tremors, she'd learned, weren't symptoms of disease but of life changing in the most beautiful, unexpected ways. And it had all begun with one simple question from a child who noticed what everyone else had missed.